Welcome back to IGN Live at Comic-Con in San Diego 2016. I'm Brian Altano, this is Joshua Yale, and this is Joaquin, Lauren, and Tim from Voltron, Legendary Defender. First of all, congrats on making an awesome Netflix show together. I don't know how you did that. Voltron's something we all grew up with, or at least many of us did.
Yeah.
A huge success, awesome, just really, really cool. So thank you for being here.
Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Awesome.
With you guys having done, Korra and Avatar, The Last Airbender, it was, and then you guys are doing Voltron, it was like, wow, this has got to be great. And it was like fantastic. Yeah. So was there anything you learned of doing those other series that you like took into Voltron and applied to the series?
I think from the outset, we wanted to make a show that was fun. We wanted, not to take itself too seriously. We wanted, obviously, there to be drama and stakes. But I think one of the awesome things about Avatar and Korra was that the characters were fun, and there was a sense of real camaraderie amongst all the characters. So I think that was one of the pillars.
Yeah, I think building the Voltron team and making those guys really good characters, and also just building in the kind of like jokes and the camaraderie that come up before the big climactic battles, which they always deliver. So.
Yeah, I like that when you get to the climactic battles, you're like pulling for the team. There's a great, and the sense of humor is like so great. And the character who sort of stole the show for me was like Rhys Darby's character, Corin. It came out of left field and just was, like had me laughing. And everyone else is super funny, especially like Hunk and everything. But he really stole the show. So what was it like working with Rhys and like coming up with a sense of humor for the show?
I mean, Rhys was...
Yeah, he was an early pick, and we were like, do you think we could get Rhys? And then somehow, like, he had wanted to do a show at DreamWorks, so it really worked out perfectly, and he's incredible. I mean, obviously, as an improviser, he's tip-top, so he can always get...
That's the greatest thing, is just watching him sort of take the script and then go crazy in the booth and just give you all these alternate takes and different sort of weird ways of looking at lines. It's all of them hilarious.
Yeah. And it's even evolved over time. It's gotten even crazier now that Tim and the writers are even more familiar with how Rhys talks and his voice. They'll just write things specifically for him.
Yeah, it's really fun to develop the Altean gibberish.
It actually reminded me a lot of like a character you would see on a cartoon in the 80s. Like you turn on the TV and be like, what's this weird voice? Like,
wacky dude.
Something I really appreciated about this, and as someone who grew up loving Voltron, but never really like understanding what it would be like to be one of those characters in that. Like, you would turn on the TV, Voltron would be there, you'd just assume that everyone, all these teenagers would be like, yeah, it's cool, we're flying around in space in these cats. But there's something about this happening in sort of real time as these characters are learning about it for the first time, where they're, like, some of them are kind of being like, what the hell is going on? Like, why am I in a cat? Hunk keeps throwing up. Which is, I think, like, something I identify with, not throwing up, but specifically like if I was like flying around in space in a giant cat, I'd be like, I don't understand this. I want to go eat a sandwich.
I mean, when you think about that scenario, there's like cats that wear other cats as boots. Like, it's a crazy situation, you know. It's and the fact that these kids, are from Earth, from a slightly, Earth from the future, but they're still pretty grounded. There's been no real contact with aliens up to that point. I think, we talked early on, and that was one of the things that really set this version apart, was that you're on the ride with these characters and you're seeing everything with them for the first time. And so their reactions when Hunk's saying like, I'm a leg, it's crazy. It's totally nuts. It's a nutty scenario.
It's crazy because it's true.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that because it gives you the ability to sort of like pull back from the source material and be like, wait, what?
I'm going to spoil something, so if you haven't seen it, go away. So one of the biggest twists, my favorite twist of the show, was that Pidge was a girl.
Shocker.
And there's been different interpretations of the characters in Voltron over the years. So what made you guys want to start with having us under the assumption that it's all boys, but then one of them was secretly a girl? Why did you guys make that a twist?
Well, it was just something that obviously I wanted to put more women in the show because we had pretty much an all-male cast without her, and just the idea of having that homage to the original show still, where you've still got Pidge, he's still very much in that same space, but then when you reveal that it's a girl, nothing changes, and it's still very much, the character occupies the same space.
Right.
And so it was just kind of us proving like, hey, you can put a girl in this show and not make it any really that much different from the original. And it's actually a lot easier than I think a lot of people think to represent women in shows.
Yeah.
And have it just be perfectly fine.
And it added who would have thought it? It added a real sense of depth to the character, though, that wasn't necessarily there before. It was just sort of like you said, there were these sort of teenage space cadets that
Yeah.
sort of accepted everything that was coming at them
Right.
and were just in this situation.
Yeah.
Well, I think if you had the toys in the 80s, which, by the way, I learned at a very young age that was the difference between sort of being like in a wealthy family and a non-wealthy family. Because you could go to a store and you could maybe get one Ninja Turtle and be okay, but you couldn't just get a foot.
Yeah, totally.
Like, I need all of these
I need the
cats.
whole thing.
But back in the day, it was sort of just like, well, I like the blue one or I like the red one. And now all of a sudden you're sort of looking in, you're like, well, each one of these characters has a real deeper personality, and it gives you a chance to explore that. So what was it like sort of carving out those identities for each character?
Well, it was, like you said, it was pretty much a blank slate, you know, that they were just colors and that was it. So a lot of it came from the casting, you know. I mean, we got great actors in this, and so it's easy to, you know, start listening to them say the lines and then start crafting it around what they do great, like Jeremy Shada as Lance. Super funny, comes off as not too creepy, but kind of hitting on allure a lot. So, you know, he plays that just right. And Tyler Labine is super funny as Hunk, too. So, you know, working with those guys has made it really easy.
And Jeremy, by the way, pulled up in like a bright blue sports car.
Yeah.
First day of recording, we're like, dude, it's you. Come on, Lance.
Did it have a tail and ears?
I know, right?
That's incredible. So I got to ask you guys another thing. The show ends on this massive cliffhanger. Why did you do that to us?
Because we're cruel people.
Yeah, it's what you wanted.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you want all stories. I think the fact that people are interested to see where the story could have gone, I think we're hoping for that, and that's, as storytellers, you want people coming back for more.
Right.
Yeah, and we want the story to continue, so we knew we couldn't wrap it up just within the first season.
Yeah.
We still know that there's a ton of room for it to grow, places for it to go, so we wanted to leave it open-ended. Maybe it didn't have to be quite so intense, but hey, we don't
was
do
rather
anything,
abrupt.
you know.
I think that's the trade-off with the Netflix distribution model is that if you're watching regular TV, you'd have 10 tiny cliffhangers throughout. And you guys just kind of made
Right.
it flow and had that redemption at the end where you're like, well, we haven't had any cliffhangers, let's just do a gigantic one.
Yeah.
10 times.
You know, so we have had, you know, no official word on a second season yet. Can you offer us any hope that we'll get that?
We can tell you
We all have hope.
Yeah.
and we're all
We
still
are-
currently employed at DreamWorks. we're
We're
working.
working
at DreamWorks.
on
So you're saying there's a chance.
Well, let's say if you did get a second season, where might you go and take the story? Generally speaking.
I think it's just, you know, just evolving the characters and seeing, you know, the good thing about the Netflix model is that you can kind of start peppering stuff in early that will pay off later. So all, you know, that same idea, if you felt a little bit of that in season 1, you know, with a potential season 2, that would be even further.
awesome. And just the fact that we ended with all of our lines getting separated, just, you know, if we have a season 2, we might be able to see how each of those lines deals on their own
right.
in a
I'd be
crazy
curious to
environment.
know.
Thank you guys so much for coming today. I'm
Absolutely.
incredibly excited for the even slim chance we might get a season 2. In the meantime, Voltron Legendary Defender is on Netflix right now. You can watch the entire season, binge watch it as soon as you're done watching IGN Live, which you should be doing all weekend long because this is Comic-Con and we're going to just keep kicking ass. Thank you so much for watching. Stay right here for all your Comic-Con coverage.